Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is your sim trainer. This will be the third installment of the A320 training series. In this chapter, we shall be learning how to use the autopilot during the climb phase of this aircraft. I'll be going over the flight control unit, that is the FCU. I'll show you. It's right below the glare shield. And I'll be explaining you. First of all, you might be thinking we were all in the last video, we were already on the takeoff. I have brought you back to the ramp. I've actually brought you back to the ramp so we could do the actual departure briefing today. So not the actual one, it's pretty lengthy, but we will be discussing the IFR charts provided, like many of you will be using the Jepson or you might be using Navigraph. So I'll be using Navigraph for this, and we will start figuring out how to use those charts and actually fly out the standard instrument departure. So with that, I would not waste you any more time. Let's get started inside the cockpit. So, welcome back to the cockpit. As you have already seen that I have already prepared the aircraft. We just have to figure out the MCDU. And I've also done the, not the complete diff strip, if you remember from the previous video. If you do not know what's the diff strip, I would highly recommend you to see the first video of this series in which I teach you how to start up the aircraft from the cold and dark. So I've already put in the check the data initialized, and now we'll be going to the flight plan. So remember in the last video, I always told you to keep the while figuring out the flight plan, always keep the mode of your map in plan mode and switch on your constraints. Okay, now we are going to fly today the Enol to Alpha with ISRIS transition. So I will be using the Navigraph charts for that. Just a second. It will be easier for us. So if we go here and we add departure, just a second. Sim brief. Yeah, we'll have to go and we'll have to put in the VABB. Yeah. And if we see the departures, yeah, there it is. And today we'll be flying the Enol to Alpha. And here is the map. Okay, just a second. Let's zoom it in. And today, yeah, I'll be teaching you a few tips and tricks relating to the MCDU. The MCDU is quite interesting. You can do a lot of things, which even I have not already also learned. But I will give you a little tips and tricks here and there, so that you keep on learning them and keep on practicing them on the way. So this is the standard instrument departure IFR chart. And yeah, one more thing, if any of the viewers, if you feel that I should make a separate video on explaining how to read a IFR chart, whether it's the SID, the STAR, standard terminal arrival route, the approach charts for ILS, RNAV or VOR or anything else, please let me know in the comments. If a whole lot of you want me to make it, I'll definitely make them. So for this part, today we will be taking off from runway 27. Our first point is Mike Bravo 364. Second point is Enoli. And our third point will be all the way up here, ISRES. So just a brief summary of this chart. As you can see, this is the Enol to Alpha. Okay. And when I say transition means basically where does the SID end? So even for Anol to Alpha, we have multiple transitions. We have Exolu, Betku, Isris, and we have Nonin and Melax. Depending on the flight plan provided to you by your dispatcher, or depending on the ATC traffic or anything else, and most importantly, obviously, the direction of your travel, the said transition will be offered to you. So today we'll be flying the Enol to Alpha ISRIS transition. So we just have to focus on this leg. Okay. It just has 3 GPS points, so not very complex. It's actually good for us, just for starters. Now, second thing comes that you have to make sure to understand what are the constraints. So when I say constraints, constraints basically mean that the rules that you have to follow on a departure, on an arrival, until and unless the ATC gives you a separate command. Okay, so let's say you are flying the SID. ATC says nothing. He just says you clear for takeoff, runway 27, and you have to follow the Enol 2 Alpha. Okay, so in that case, for Enol 2 Alpha, you will have to be above 2600 feet. So you see this 2600 feet and the line below. That means you have to be above 2600 feet at Mike Bravo 364. After this, you have to turn right 358 degrees. That should be your course. And for Anoli, you'll have to be below flight level 10,000. Okay, so the line is above. That means you have to stay below flight level 10,000. And as you move ahead, is this? I'm a little confused. Is XOPAL a part of ISRIS? I don't think so. I think it's part of this direction. So after this, you keep on climbing, and there is no constraint on ISRIS. Okay, so constraints not only apply to the, what do you say, the altitudes or the flight levels, they also apply to say the speed of the aircraft. Now, as we already know, there's a universal rule: below 10,000 feet, you have to stay at 250 knots or below. You cannot exceed it. So in this case, we do not have any constraints, okay, regarding the speed. Sometimes the speed may be also mentioned. It'll be in magenta color. It'll be like you have to maintain 210 knots over here, or 220 knots over here, or you have to maintain certain amount of speed. Okay. So once we have seen this, now we start filling up our MCDU with our flight plan. Okay. So we'll be flying from VABB departure runway 27, and as I said, we're going to fly the Enol 2 Alpha using the ISRIS transition. You see, all these are transitions. Exolu I've already shown you, BaitQ is already there, it goes on and on. You can also go down. Melax, Nonen, Kakpo. So we go back up. We have to select ISRIS transition. Okay. Now, before you insert it, okay, it's still in the temporary flight plan. Okay, it's already there. Now you have to make sure that the constraints, whenever this is in magenta, this means these are the constraints. Whenever it's in the white, it means that your computer, the flight computer has calculated that you should be around at that altitude or at that speed, but that's not a constraint. That's not mandatory. When it's in magenta, it's a hard line. You have to follow it. Okay. So we have to make sure that these constraints over here are matching what is written in your IFR chart. Okay. So suppose it says so this is basically just a waypoint that it has already built up, that at 530 feet, you'll be track 270, 530 feet, it's a constraint. So we have to be above. You see this plus? If I can show you closely enough. Yeah, it's a plus. So you have to be above 530 feet. At Mike Bravo 364, you have to be above 2600. So you go across to your chart and you make sure it is above 2,600. Okay, same goes for Anoli. Anoli says you have to be below 10,000. So let's see what it does say. It says Anoli track 357 minus. Minus means you have to stay below flight level 100, 100. So basically 10,000 feet. You have to stay below. Now, if there were certain kind of speed constraints, you would see them over here. Okay, but they're not here. And just in case, usually it does not happen, but you can make changes to the constraints as well. Okay, so it's in the same format, dash slash dash. So if you hit clear, okay, and let's say ATC asks you that due to some traffic around, you should not exceed 210 knots at Mike Bravo 364. Okay, so how do we do that? So you press 210, okay, and Mike Bravo 364, right side for speed and altitude, you press this, okay, and it goes right over here, okay. So, and let's say, and obviously I already told you that in case of the ATC tells you something different, you have to follow constraints. But just say, let's say the ATC has asked us that please maintain 3,000 or above at Mike Bravo 364. So to edit that, now the altitude is behind the slash. So you have to press slash 3,000 and go and press on this. Climb, and it changes to 3,000. Okay, but we do not want to do that. We just want to fly the standard SID. So we do undo change, this, and once we are convinced that it's completely fine, and yeah, let's go ahead. We are convinced that it matches the IFR chart. We are convinced, so we insert it. Okay, and that's how you basically plan out SID. Uh, and once you are done with that, you can actually proceed with your rest of your procedures, like pushback and everything. I won't bore you with that, but as I told you, today I'm going to teach you a small, what do you say, a trick in the A320. So it's not, Mumbai is per se not very, what do you say, mountainous regions, but let's just say there's actually a threat that there are mountains around us. So just to keep our awareness of the area, this says, if you read the IFR chart correctly, it says that within 12 nautical miles, this IFR chart gives you a protection from terrain if you're above 2,800 feet within the radial 160 and 020 of the Bravo, Bravo, Bravo. It's not written here, but I know the VOR's name. The VOR is Bravo, Bravo, Bravo. So how do you make sure that you're never on the wrong side of it? So how do you do that? So there's a neat trick to it. You actually go here, you press here on actually anything. You can press on anything. Okay, you go fix, and you put in a reference fix. Okay, so our reference fix is the Mumbai VOR. That is Bravo, Bravo, Bravo. Reference fix done. Now, as I've told you, the radials. Okay, the radials were 160. Okay, and the other one was 020, and the radius was 12 nautical miles, if I'm correct. Yes. Okay, so like this, you can have, this is one fix, and let's just say you want to put, okay, so I'll show you what it does to you. So once you're done with this, you go back into arc mode, Now, if you see clearly, this actually creates a circle that keeps you aware that if I'm within radial 160 and radial 060 in this area, I have to stay above 2800 feet. That's where I get my terrain clearance. Okay, and it's not only one fix you can put. You can actually put four. This is page 104, and it's a left right. You go next. Just a second. Sorry. Yeah, you press this one. You again go bravo, bravo, bravo. Let's see what the other, there was one more terrain capture over here. So this one says that there's no radial per se. Yeah, there is a radial per se. Again, 160,020, radius of how many nautical miles? I think it should be standard one. So standard area terrain clearance is of 25 nautical miles, if I'm correct. It's not mentioned here. I can't see. So let's say it is 25 nautical miles. We have a clearance of 3,800 feet. How do we define that now? So radial, same way, 160,020, and radius 25 miles. And again, you have just a second. Yeah, that is there. So if you again extend it, now you may not be able to see it, but now there are two. This is the 12 nautical mile one. Yeah. And there it is, the 25 nautical mile one. So you have to stay above 2600. Over here, you have to be above 3800 for terrain clearance. So it's not mandatory, but if you're flying into terrains, it gives you a better appreciation of the situational awareness around you. And as I told you, uh, now it's appearing. I don't know how. Just a second. What I was trying to show you before. Just a second, guys. Uh, just a second. Yeah. So as I was showing you, I told you that if you keep yourself in plan mode, yeah, there it is. Now, if I just a second, yeah. Now, if I swipe through MB364 plus 2600 feet, it shows you above 2600. You have been go down, and only plus, sorry, minus flight level 100. So this also shows you the constraint. That's why we keep it in the plan mode. So as you scroll through, you can keep a check on the various points that you'll be flying through. Okay. So with this, we have done our flight planning. So now, once you are done with the setup, I'll meet you on the hold short line. From there, I will start explaining you this part. Okay. So see you there now. Welcome back. So currently we are holding short of runway 27, and we'll take a pause over here just to discuss how can we figure out the autopilot now. So what you see right in front of you, this whole panel, it's called the FCU or the flight control unit, this part. Okay. So what, what the FCU basically does is it like for the autopilot, there are basically two modes that it can fly the aircraft fly it. Okay, so either it can be flown in a managed mode, or it can be flown in a selected mode. Okay, so there are only two ways: selected and managed. So if you see these knobs very clearly, very closely, sorry, they can either be pushed in or they can be pulled out. Just a second. If you do it on a real sim, it'll be much easier, or it can be pulled out. Okay. So always remember, if you are pulling it towards yourself or pulling it out, that thing will go into selected mode. So that is called the lateral reversion. So that's basically a downgraded form. So on the left, you have something called the speed knob. When the speed is not shown and it is just a dot, that it means it's in managed mode. So managed mode means that it'll on takeoff, it will fly the V2 plus 10. After that, it will try to maintain 250 knots below flight level 100. And after you pass flight level 100, sorry for that. After flight level 100, it'll start going close to the cruising speed that it has already calculated inside the MCDU. Okay, that'll be all done automatically. This is the managed mode of speed. Okay, this is when it's pushed in. Now, if you pull it out, okay, now you've pulled it towards yourself. That means now you are the one who is managing the speed. So in that case, you just have to put in whatever speed you want to fly, okay, and it'll fly the set speed. For usual departures, we always keep this in managed, okay. So whenever, yeah, for the speed part, that's pretty much it. Now coming on to the lateral navigation. So whenever you're flying, there are two kinds of navigation. The Boeing people will know it better. So in Boeing, there's something called the LNAV, VNAV. So lateral navigation and vertical navigation. So I'll basically help you uh, imagine that in a way. So lateral navigation is basically the heading. If you see on your navigation display over here, going left, going right, that is the lateral navigation. Currently, again, it's blank, blank, blank dot. That means it's in nav mode. Nav mode means basically it'll fly the said path that it has already selected. Okay. And over here, also, if you see in the PFD, nav mode is armed. So once you take off, it'll go green and you announce nav while reading the FMA. That means that the nav mode is armed. If you switch on the autopilot, it'll automatically start flying the green path. That is the GPS path. Okay. Now, if you go into the heading mode, how do you do that? So this is when you have pushed it in. That means it's in managed mode. Now, if you pull it out, lateral reversion takes place, and this will go into heading mode. Now you see this line. This shows that you will be following a specific heading, and nav disappears. Heading is actually activated now. Okay, so if you go back up, now you can select whatever heading you want to fly. 139. I'm so sorry. The green line is actually your current heading, but if you see this blue dot over here, this blue triangle on top of 150, that is your heading. So if you're flying and you press 150, it'll start moving towards left and fly at the said 150. I'll show you everything once you're in the air. Okay. But again, stand protocol, you always keep it in nav mode until and unless the ATC says you to do that. Okay, because sometimes you just line up and the moment you're about to get your departure clearance, the ATC suddenly goes like I fly 212, wind so and so, runway 27, fly runway heading, clear for takeoff. So in that case, you have to do nothing. Just move the knob a little, it'll automatically go into heading mode and you select the heading. So let's say the track of runway 27 is 271, if I'm correct. Yeah, it's 271. So you just press in 271, okay, and you take off, you push the autopilot, it'll automatically start flying the heading mode, okay. But again, we have not been told so. So let's push it in. Remember, pushing is managed, pulling is selected. You pull it towards yourself, you are the one, the pilot is the one managing everything. So it's selected mode, but you're pushing it in. Again, the computer is managing everything. So it's the manage mode. Now, it gets a little interesting with autopilot. Sorry, the altitude knob. Altitude knob never goes blank. Okay, and whatever is set over here, that will be the hard deck. Okay, suppose, so I have kept it here as 24, flight level 240. That is actually my cruising altitude. Okay, but there's a dot with it. That means while climbing out on the SID, though it will want to go to 24,000 feet, it will still obey all the constraints. Okay, that means it will go to 24,000 feet, but once we are at Mike Bravo 364, it will stop climbing and it will level out at 2,600 feet. Now, if we start going towards Enol, the waypoint Enol, remember we have to stay below flight level 100. It will level out and it will not go beyond the 10,000 feet barrier. Okay, because it is still in managed mode. Okay, because it's pushed in. But if I pull it out, right now it's not going, but yeah, sorry, on the ground it does not happen. Once you're in the air, you pull it out, it'll go into open climb. What will open climb do? Bam goes all the constraints. It'll straight away start flying to flight level 240. No constraints, no speed constraints. It'll straight away go towards that. Okay. But as I told you, this is the hard deck. Now suppose I pull it down to flight level 50. Sorry, to 5,000 feet. Just a second, guys. And yeah, this can be set into hundreds and into thousands. Okay. Suppose I set it to 5,000 feet. Okay. Now what will happen? Okay. I'll give you 10 seconds just to ponder over it. Just let me know. Remember, this is the hard deck. Okay. So let me know in the comments what will happen. So here's the answer. Once you take off, this is the hard deck, though it's in constraint mode. At Mike Bravo 364, it will go up to 2,600 feet, level off, start climbing again towards a knoll, but it will level off at 5,000 feet. It will never go to 10,000 because this is the hard deck. And that's why this window never goes blank, because the pilot has to always know at which altitude he's going to stop or he's going to start climbing or descending. Okay. So if 5,000 is put in, it will follow the constraints up to 5,000, but bam, there it stops. It will not go any further. So if there's any specific constraint given by the ATC, you always keep it, put it into the altitude knob. Okay. And as so yeah, that's pretty much it. And this is the vertical speed. This is pretty much self-explanatory. It's blank right now because we want to climb on the climb rate should be the one which will give us the V2 plus 10. After that, it'll automatically calculate. But let's suppose if ATC says that you want to fly a specific, they might say there's a traffic incoming. We want you to climb at 1,500 feet per minute or higher. So what you can do is, again, you have to do it. So you pull it and you dial it in. Okay, 1,500 feet, right? But again, as the altitude is in constraint mode, remember, it's in constraint mode, it will not exceed 5,000 feet. 1,500 feet per minute, bam, you hit 5,000, it'll stop right there. Okay, but we do not want that. You push it in. Okay, it goes to VS0. You again have to push the altitude knob in. Okay, that will basically I'm sorry, just a second. Yeah, so we have to just follow the 5,000 feet climb. Okay, but though we do not have any restriction, we'll straight away go to, what do you say, 24,000 feet. Okay, and This will stay in managed mode now. I don't know, it shouldn't say VS0, it should say climb. There's some problem with it, but let's figure it out. I hope it gets figured out in the once we start climbing. It should go blank again, and oh, sorry, metric, not metric. No. And let's switch off the FDs, and let's switch on the FDs again. Yeah, there it is. Again, nav mode is activated. Always remember, guys, if this happens, you switch off the FDs on both sides and you switch it on again, it will go into climb and nav mode. So again, 24,000 feet. So we are all set up. That's pretty much how you run an FCU. So I'll show you while it takes place. So again, the normal departure procedure, just to run through you, it'll just be a good reminder, a good summary of how to do a takeoff. So this time we'll try to do a rolling one, okay? So this will be a PAX off departure, okay? Suppose we have gotten the departure clearance, strobes on, takeoff light to takeoff, line lights on, all is set. That is, I'm currently doing the flows. So TCAS, TARA, okay, that's pretty much set. You look out the window, arrival end and the departure ends are clear. Runway 27 is confirmed, and you run the normal checklist, and we are ready to roll on the runway. Okay. And I'm going to keep reading the FMA and keep an eye on the FMA because for running the FCU, the FMA is very important because it basically makes sure that you're in the correct mode. Okay, so we're already rolling. Let's get the, yeah. Let's go down the runway, center line, bam. We're pretty much on the center line. Yeah. So again, push the stick forward a little. Okay. Push up the throttle, 1.05 EPR. Once that is achieved, we have a flex takeoff, 2 notches forward, and you start reading the FMA, Manflex 65, SRS, runway, auto thrust blue, check. Maintain the center line, 80 knots comes up, you start releasing the stick slowly, so that at 100 it becomes neutral, 100 knots, check. We're pretty heavy, that's why the V1 and V2 are pretty high today. It's 165 knots. V1, hands off the thrust, rotate. And you follow the FDs up to 15 degrees, positive rate, gear up. And you see, nav goes green, nav, that's checked. And you keep hitting this. I'll switch on the autopilot now. And we'll do all the normal stuff, okay? Above F speed, flaps 1, speed check. You have to make sure the speed is above. Speed check, flap 1. And you see, nav is armed, so it's going to follow this line, the GPS line. I'll switch off the terrain just to make it easier to visible. And you can see, thrust lever climb, you pull it back, lever climb. And thrust climb, climb, nav. 10,000 magenta. So if you see clearly, 10,000 is in magenta, alt is magenta. That means there's a constraint coming up. That means a nollie will be constrained at 10,000. Pretty cool, right? and I'll run you through a little more things that goes on during climb, okay? Let's say that, just a second, guys. We are above S speed, flap 0, speed check, flap 0. Now we run the acceleration flow. Acceleration flow, pack 1 on, you wait for 10 seconds, disarm the speed brake, and you switch off the lights, and you switch on pack 2. Acceleration flow completed. And as you can see, as we are in speed managed mode, the speed automatically selected is 250 knots. Okay, you do not have to manage anything. But now let's just show you for traffic, let's just say, and one more thing, transition altitude has come up. This will start flashing. Okay, so you have to do a standard barometer check. Okay, so once this starts flashing, the pilot flying announces set standard. Both pilot and co-pilot have to pull the QNH. This will go standard, standard, and just a second. This does not end there, and you have to do a standard cross check. Okay, so the PF announces standard cross check, passing flight level 60 now, and the co-pilot verifies and he says checked. Okay, so currently we are in thrust climb, and let's just say that you know what, let's just keep climbing. Okay, I won't do anything over here just to show you that once we are at Anoli, it'll hit the constraint and it'll just stop. And over here, it'll show alt constraint. Okay, it'll show alt constraint and it'll level out. So pretty neat trick, I would say, from Airbus. Okay, let's wait for it. And in the meantime, let's have a look outside. Beautiful aircraft. And that's us leaving Mumbai behind. Yeah. So there is 10,000 Alt star. That means it's about to capture it. And once it hits 10,000, it's going to go alt constraint. Let's see if that happens. And there it is, 10,000 feet, alt constraint. It'll hold flight level 100 till the time we are we do not cross Anoli. Okay. The moment it crosses Anoli, we're going to start ascending again. Okay. And there we cross Anoli. We go into climb mode, flight level 240, blue, and it'll start climbing. We are in thrust climb. We're above 10,000 feet. So now what do? We start running the after 10,000 flows. What is that? That is only landing lights off, seat belts off, and 10,000 flows are complete. Now I'll show you a little variation. Okay, now how the lateral reversion takes place. Suppose ATC says I fly 270, I fly 221, reduce speed to 270 for traffic. So what do? Currently it's in thrust climb because it's going to follow and try to maintain the speed which is calculated by the MCDU. So how do we do that? We have to go into selected mode for speed. So you pull it back, 308, you dial it back to 270 knots. Okay, and when you read this, thrust climb, but it's in blue now. It's already selected and it's decreasing. That means it will maintain 270 knots now. And let's just say I fly, and same goes for the heading. If I pull the heading, I dial it anywhere around, it'll, let's just say, it says that I fly 221, turn left heading 350 for traffic. So we pull it back, it goes into heading mode. Now nav is not active anymore, it says heading. So you dial it as 350, and there it goes. Okay. But obviously, we have kept the altitude going, so it will keep climbing towards 24,000 feet. Okay. And just to check how far away are we from the track, this over here, it's called the cross track. Okay. So it says 0.9 L. That means you're now 1 nautical mile left of the selected nav course. Okay. So now he says, I fly 221, resume on navigation, maintain speed restrictions are removed. So how do you do that? Simple. You go to speed, you push it in. It goes into managed. It'll start increasing to 320 or whatever is calculated. And if you want to go back to your nav path, if you simply push it in, it'll just arm nav. It won't straight away start going into it because it has to turn into it. So if you see nav is armed, it's still in heading mode. So what do? You turn towards it, towards your nav path. And once it feels that it's near enough, this will go into the nav mode will be active and nav will be green again. There it is. Nav is activated. Now we'll straight away fly to the green path and start flying it. And one more thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What needs to be learned for the climb of the what do you say during the climb of Airbus A320. Just last thing, if the ATC says I fly 221, stop climb, flight level 200. So you go flight level 200, push it in, okay. It will stop flight level 200. So thrust climb, climb, nav. And once you are 1,000 feet away from your final, we should have set it at 19,000 feet. So you say 1,000 feet to go. This shows that here will be your top of climb, this blue arrow on your navigation display. Once it hits 20,000, it should read Alt Cruise. This will stay in speed. And again, it'll read as nav. So it's about to achieve it, Alt Star. And just waiting for that. It's pretty much slow. Yeah, it's about to reach. Yeah, so we have reached our cruising altitude. It says Alt, okay? Why it's not saying cruise? Because inside your MCDU, if you remember, uh, this message comes up when you push in for nav, and there's no, as you remember, I told you have to turn into it. It'll say no nav intercept. That means nav is armed but not active. So you clear it. Now, if you remember, you put in your cruising level at flight level 240. I have to change that now. Flight level 200. That's changed. Now it should say Alt Cruise. There it is. You go into Mach number. go alt cruise. That means now the aircraft is in cruise mode. Okay, so if you go into performance, you're in cruise mode now. Okay, you're saying manage speed is through 340.72. If you want to change it, same way. Let's say you want to maintain 320, you go 320 and you go this. It's not changing. I don't know why. I think you have to do it from the FCU only. So that's done. And once you're in a cruise mode, nothing is to be done. And that completes your lesson for this time. So thank you guys. I hope you'll take away something new from this lesson. Uh, if you have any questions, any comments regarding these videos, I would love to hear them from you in the comment section. And happy landings. Bye bye.